Another guy is accused of assault 30 years later with no video, no picture, no police report. Another one. It's pretty much weekly. We're hearing about, I'm sure it's hourly, but we're hearing about another famous person, right, that we know who's being accused of something with no evidence from decades ago. It is a life sentence being a man in the West. The West is basically has taken away men's rights. Men have no human rights. They don't share protection from the justice system. The criminal justice system has a series of protections for people that are being accused. And the reason why is because the penalties are very big. But when it comes to men do not have that protection. So a woman can make a story up, tell a story decades later about a guy, and basically, if the judge believes the story, okay, then he will be put in prison. And I think one of the things that society will say is, oh, if it wasn't true, the judge wouldn't believe. I tell you something. They've done a lot of research about one of the most interesting things, and I didn't know this, criminal cases before DNA, is that they when they use DNA to look at past criminal cases, what they try to cover up. I mean, they is like basically, let's just talk about society, okay, from as a whole. People don't want to, certain things, it's too dirty, it's too dangerous. They don't want to bring it up. But basically, the judge's judgment, like let's say in murder cases, was basically out to lunch. Judges it was no better than luck. When they had a story. They heard a story, and it was like, which one do you believe? Everybody thinks they're good at telling if somebody's lying, but they're not. Humans are just not good at it. So when DNA evidence came out, it changed everything. DNA evidence is just awesome because it tells, he was at the scene, right? For example, a bank robbery, right? It's his DNA on the safe door, right? Boom. He was there. You don't know he did it, but he went into the safe, right? That's powerful. That is so powerful because we're not based on some guy's ability to tell if someone's telling the truth. Humans just aren't good at it. And liars are very good at lying. And normal people are terrible at it. And smart, experienced cops know this. Is that like the normal person, if you put him into like a questioning situation, like he's going to seem guilty because they'll be like, what did you do on Tuesday? He'll be like, let's see, what did I do on Tuesday? You should know, and he's like, let me think here. Tuesday. I went to my sister's house. No, that was Monday. Tuesday. What did I do on Tuesday? I think I just watched a movie at home. Oh, so you have no witnesses. I see. And the guy's like, well, and then he starts to sound more and more guilty, and then they ask more questions, and the cops know this, so they kind of like have gotten more sophisticated in this. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing with kind of so many things humans think they're good at, and they're not. Humans think they're good at fucking picking employees, right? Interviews are, as a headhunter, I can tell you, interviews are pathetic. Like, it's basically just flip of a coin, luck, if you get a job. It's your ability to basically tell stories, right? And so companies are starting to improve on that. They're basically, companies have realized, smart companies like Google and Facebook and Tesla, they've realized that all you're doing when you give a guy a job based on interviews, you're basically saying that guy is very good at interviewing. And so they're saying, okay, well, let's put that guy in a situation where he has to do something, right? Let's test his real ability in real time. And that gives you a much better idea of the guy's capacity. Of course, you still don't know his mind, what he wants to do, what he's planning, and things like that are still unknown. But at least you know his competence, right? Based on, bringing him in. Here's the situation. Solve it. They bring him to the line manager. The line manager says, okay, here's the defect, manufacturing process. What would you do? I mean, go do it right now. Go do what you would do. And the guy's like, he goes and does something, right? And then the company knows not only that he has skills, but they look at the way he does it, his mannerisms, the success he has, and then they judge based on that. And at least they know competence. Okay, but when it was just stories, which was the old interview, it really wasn't effective because, again, it's just a story. And that's the problem. That is the problem. The criminal justice system for men is just stories these days. Just stories. And judges, as I said, as we've seen from evidence of the past, are just not good at that. So it's not that they have a vendetta, although there are very angry people that do. No doubt about it. I would go so far as to say is that the family courts have been so bad to men over so many years that they started to believe their own bullshit. And they are biased. But even that aside, and bias is serious. It's not just a fucking small point of interest. Bias is intense, okay? The family courts are biased against men. But on top of that, there's no evidence needed. It's just stories. And again, people attack the woman and they attack this. I'm not going to talk about, I'm just going to say that judges just they're not good at it. They really aren't. Judges, if just hearing stories, like two people tell a story, I don't know what it's kind of like lie detector, basically, of police. That's why they made a lie detector machine. Now, of course, the detector machine sucks, the old one. But at least it was better than humans. Like, that's how bad we are. We're so bad that a terrible technology is better, right? And then now they have DNA evidence because they realize, the courts, they don't want to tell you because that would make you nervous, right? They don't want you nervous, right? But the reality is that judges don't know who to believe in a story. They try their best and everybody thinks they're good. But the way you prove that it didn't work was DNA. And DNA has just totally upended that. But where does that continue? It continues against men. Stories. So whether they're true or not, the judges are not well equipped as humans to judge these things. And in many cases, women are making criminal accusations in family courts, which isn't even appropriate. It's the wrong place. Now, this is in a criminal court, so this model is making this charge against Axl Rose here. I have no idea if he did it. I have no idea what happened. I wasn't there. I have no idea what's going on with that. But this video is not about that. It's not about whether he did it. It's not about her personality. Basically, just you need to know as a guy. Okay, now I'm not going to tell you what you should do with this. Okay, But I'm just going to say that what's happening is that you have no human rights in the West. Any woman can accuse you at any time with a story. And we already know the judges are just not good at that. And nobody cares. Nobody cares. You have no human rights. You can be put in jail at any moment. Anybody can make up a story about you, and you have no human rights. It's going to be based on a story, which we already know really is not, it just doesn't. A lot of cases these days I've read where men are being accused of these things, the only thing that saves them is if there was a video, like say a surveillance video, or if there was rock solid evidence that the guy was not even there. There's cases where the guy wasn't even in the country. And women have made criminal charges against guys. And luckily he had a passport with a stamp in it that proved he was not even in the country. So that's the kind of evidence you need. Otherwise, you're basically, you should be terrified. And people were like nowadays, people are saying like, why are men working not socializing with females? At work or after work. I mean, guys are being professional, but it has nothing to do with the females in question. It's about the guy's situation. He has no human rights against her in her presence. He has human rights if there's a man there. He's protected by the law. But if there's a female there, he has no human rights and can go to jail. Not only can he go to jail at any time while he's working there, he can go to jail 30, 40, 50 years later after he worked with her. And I think that as a man, you really need to accept this one. It's really important. I'm not telling you what you should do with it, but you need to really accept that A, you have no human rights, and B, it's not just in the moment you're with somebody. It's 30, 40, 50, half a century later. Not only are you subject to things like dangers, but we're talking about prison. We're talking about prison. What happens in prison? A lot of bad things, a lot of violence. There is so many terrible things happen in prison to guys. Okay? Again, not protected. So you have no human rights. Your safety, your freedom, is dependent on the judge believing a story. And we know the judges are not good at that. We're not good at that. Humans aren't good at that. No evidence necessary. It's just a roll of the dice for you as a man. It is a roll of the dice. Your freedom today is just a roll of the dice. You came up with good numbers. That's it. Anytime, anywhere, you can be accused, and a judge could believe that story. And once you go through this terrible, traumatizing event, because a criminal case is just horrible, you're going to lose everything. You won't be able to pay your bills. You're going to lose your house. You won't have time to sell it. I think a lot of people don't really, there's not a lot of talk about what happens to a guy when he goes to prison for 10, 20 years. But basically the sharks move in and everybody robs you basically. When you come out, whatever you thought you had, it's gone. Everybody, not only do they turn on you, but they feel justified. Like, this guy's a criminal. Of course. Every you come out, you basically, unless you're a billionaire, you can have a lawyer protect everything and people maintaining stuff. You basically come out with nothing. You don't come out with any reputation. You come out with no car, you come out with no house. All those payments, they were all long repossessed by banks. Your clothes basically just thrown away because when they repossess the house, they just toss stuff, have a fire sale, garage sale, right? And you come out with, you're standing there when they let you out of prison. Nobody to pick you up. Nobody believes in you after a criminal case. You've been proven guilty. I think that's what you're standing there. Imagine you're standing there outside of prison after being in prison for 20 years on a false allegation. You're wearing the clothes that you wore when you went to prison because they give you your clothes back. And you're standing there waiting for the bus with a few dollars that they give you. No one's there. And let's talk about prison itself. It's extremely traumatizing. All kinds of violence happens in prison. And you have that sense of things aren't fair. I mean, the rage, the despair, the terror that it could happen again will like break most men. And the men that it won't break are forever changed. You don't go through these things and just come out smiling. Like, it's easy. No. It's very difficult. And it's all a roll of the dice. Your freedom is a roll of the dice. Your peace of mind is a roll of the dice. Whether you're going to be able to keep the things you own is a roll of the dice. The respect from your own parents and family is a roll of the dice. Your career is a roll of the dice. Being sexually assaulted in prison is a roll of the dice. Being beaten is a roll of the dice. I don't want to... some people might think this is harsh, but this is the reality. The reality is harsh. And by accepting reality as a man, I think society does not want us to accept this. Because if we accepted that our freedom is just a roll of the dice, there's no evidence needed. It just depends on how much a female doesn't like us. That's it. And I think society wants us to basically carry on and to think, maybe he did, and just to separate from yourself from them so that we continue earning money, giving to the system. They've taken away your rights. Your whole life, your freedom, your friends, your money, your possessions, your peace of mind, your physical safety, the respect you have, your relationship with everybody, your kids, everybody, grandparents. It's just a roll of the dice. It's all hanging by a string. Based on any female making a story up about you. And the reason why society doesn't want you to accept that, it makes sense, right? If you were, let's say you were quote unquote society, you wouldn't want people to know that because that's the situation. And it's so bleak and it's so incredibly unfair that they would say, if a guy realized how bad it is, he might respond in a way that's inconvenient, right? For us. He might not contribute to us the same way that he would if he keeps living in a dream that everybody that gets in trouble, it's their fault. A man might make a choice that causes disruption in the sense that society would have to change, right? If men understood their lot in life, right? Because men especially care about fairness. I will make that argument. I've seen this a million times in history and in my own life. Men really care about fairness, like more than women. Women, I think women are more, like men care more about truth, right or wrong. I don't mean that in a bad sense for women. I mean, women are different. They're social, right? They're very social. And a lot of times, very social people will prefer a group unity and a kind of a happy situation to truth. Because they say, well, yeah, this thing happened, but it's really inconvenient for it to come up now, and I'm not going to schedule any time for it to come up. So let's just, I understand, that happened, but don't ruin everything, kind of thing, right? So that's, women are like that. Like that, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I mean, really, there is truth to that. The group cohesion and unity and everything, Asian societies value that. So I'm not saying, and I love Asian society. So Asian society values group unity and cohesion more than the truth. So there you go. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but men really do care about the truth. That's a whole discussion. That's great. That's a great discussion, actually. Men really care about right and wrong. Like if a guy comes to party and says something that really upsets everybody and makes everybody angry and this and that, a man will say, yeah, well, that happened to him, right? He has every right to say that. Whereas a woman's immediately going to say, what was he thinking? Why did he do it then? And I'm not saying either one's, like I said, it is a values, there's a reason for values. And they're both right in a way, right? We all know, even men are very clear that there's appropriate times to do things and inappropriate times, right? Obviously, the reason why you go to the bathroom, take a dump in private is because it's not appropriate just to do it, in front of a school in the street, right? So there's appropriateness. Men understand that. But men, their sense of right and wrong, fairness is stronger than that. Whereas women, they tend towards stronger on that side and weaker on the other side. So I'm not saying women don't care about right and wrong. They do. But it's just that their values are a little different, right? But then you look at men, and men really value it, right? And it's happening to them. It's happening to you. It's happening to me. It's happening to your brother. It's happening to your dad. And I'm just going to end on this, is that it's not about will charges be filed against you. And that's what everybody says. People will immediately jump to numbers. Oh, the numbers are not. That's not the problem. That really isn't the problem. Although, obviously, high numbers are worse than low numbers. And I think the numbers are pretty darn high, actually. Every single Ronin guy that I've talked to in Unblackmailable that went through a court case, a family court, had false allegations filed against them. People say it's rare. It's common. Okay, it happens in every family court case because there's no penalty. So naturally, it's a very powerful thing. Create doubt in the judge's mind. Of course, you're going to recommend it if you were a lawyer, right? Just say he did this, or find something that he raised his voice, and we'll raise it to the level of this and that, and So, where do you stand as a man? Where should you go with this? What should you do? I'm not going to tell you what you should do, because that's up to you. But I will tell you what I told you. Here's our situation. I'll just tell you quickly, myself, I accept difficult things. I went to Tol Slung in Cambodia and read about and listened to stories, looked at pictures of people that were decimated in the killing fields and also in Tol Slung. And that was the worst stories I've ever heard in my life. Like by far. Like anything that happened in World War II, no comparison to Tol Slung in Cambodia, in Phnom Penh. The school that turned into a prison camp. The death camp. And yet, I am glad I was there. I am very, very glad. Because I understand what could happen. And because of that, one, I'm more prepared if it did happen. Just like I look for fire exits in a mall. Because I'm thinking, I look for exits. Employee hallways, things like that. Just in case if there was a shooting, I just know. Okay, if it's a mall I often go to, when I have time, taking a break, I'll go look around. And it's my little hobby. I'm just thinking, the reason is because people that look at fire exits in airplanes are the ones that survived crashes. I read that. There's not smart people that make quick decisions. No, it's people that prepared. So I just I'm not the survivalist guy, but I will, if I have time and nothing to do, I'll look around. I don't take it too seriously, but I just that would be a good way to get out. And it's kind of a game for me, right? I just think of what I could do if this happened, right? I think of ways that I could protect myself, right? I think for me, spending time overseas is a great way to protect yourself. Because again, I'm talking to innocent people, innocent men. What should an innocent man do? I'd say one, travel abroad, especially in your 20s. Especially in your 20s. Seriously consider having kids abroad if you're going to have a family. Again, this is a wise decision. Because the legal system is different. Things can go wrong, no doubt about it. But I personally feel this is an outrage. I do. I feel this is a fucking outrage. A successful guy like this. I was a big fan of Axl Rose. One of the girls I worked with at Leo Stereo, she claimed she was dating Slash before they got famous. And she worked at the Seventh Heaven, this strip club that they mentioned in the song. And so it makes sense. And she said he was a cool guy. And she goes, they're going to be huge. They're going to be huge. She kept telling me that. She worked at Leo Stereo as a cashier. And now everybody just blew her off. And then they got huge, right? So very, very interesting, right? So anyway, I got interested in Axl Rose, Guns N' Roses, way in the beginning because I knew about them. I knew their name, and I knew Slash's name before they even were on anybody's radar. They were just like, I shouldn't say anybody. People in that his neighborhood knew, but certainly I was only an hour away, and I didn't. Nobody knew because they had no recordings, right? They were just like a band, and a garage band, and so I got interested, and I love that song, "Welcome to the Jungle." I thought it was fucking great. I still get pumped when I hear that song, and so of course I don't want to believe it. I'm biased for him, right? But again, that's not the point. The point is that there's, that picture is kind of appropriate. He doesn't know what to do. How do you fight a ghost? You punch and there's nothing there. Let's say there's only two choices. Either he did it or he didn't. Period. Assault. And assault, there's a number of subtle rules to that, right? Obviously, when you're having sex, there's things that could be seen as that, but they're not. And there's other things that, it becomes that charge, right? That crime because of some details, right? I'm not saying he didn't have sex with her. He probably had sex with her. But whether that was a crime or not, that's I don't know. And he actually might not know either. Because again, when you're talking about sex, it is so complicated because there's so many kinds of sex. Anybody who slept with a lot of girls knows that Some girls like it rough. I mean, they'll tell you, I like it rough. I've had women tell me that. I just watched an interview that they took a clip, Pearl Daily, on one of her clips. They had Japanese women, and they all said the same thing. They asked, there was an interview, and the guy asked, about their body count, and then he asked them, what was the most disappointing sexual encounter you ever had? And then every single girl said the same thing, that they like it, a guy who's more aggressive, a guy who's rougher. Every girl in that clip. And I know that channel that she was using. And that guy's pretty honest. He just goes around and talks to people. That guy is straight up. Yeah, I mean, I actually know that channel. It's not some big channel with a lot of money behind it. It's just a normal guy, Japanese guy. And the guy definitely does his best. Just interviews people. He just walked up to people and said hi, People are busy in Japan. Like, you'd have to pay a lot of money for people to get paid for an interview. No, these are just random people walking by. Just like in my Ronin Man videos, there's a random people walking by. I'm not paying them. They're not actors. They're just walking by in the streets. Japan's so busy like that. That's kind of the way you got to operate here. So, random girls off the street, all like 19, 20, every one of them, I believe every one of them. You have to go back and watch the video. I can post it below if you want. But everyone I remember, certainly most of them, I think it was everyone, they said they wanted it rough. And that the guys were too nice, too soft. I'm not saying to be rough. Okay? People misunderstand that. What I'm saying is, like, when they interviewed women, all I'm saying is the words I'm saying. Okay? There's no hidden meaning. The women interviewed by that guy in his channel all said the same thing. We're supposed to listen to women, believe all women, right? Yeah. And every woman in that interview that was interviewed on the street randomly wanted it rougher. So where does that leave you as a guy? Like, where does that leave you? Obviously, you cannot give women what they want, right? You can just be super nice and super clean and ask a lot of favors and, wear a top hat and tip your hat and, yes, ma'am, can I do this? And you can have a contract. You can say, hey, do you mind if I touch your shoulder? Make a contract. And then she stamps it, signs it. A lawyer's there to notarize it. You could have a lawyer in the bedroom, right? He's there, and he's like, notarize stamps. Okay, do you mind if I touch your neck? No, I don't mind. Signed, stamped. The lawyer stamps it. People, you're waiting, right? It's hard to keep it's difficult to keep a heart on while you're writing a contract, signing it, stamping, and getting it notarized in the bedroom. But, you could do that, right? You probably would need a lot of Viagra to do that. You'd have to be pumped up big time. Because I don't know how long it takes to do all this, but it definitely takes some time. You need copies. The lawyer has to have a copy machine, things like that. It would cost a lot of money too, because lawyers, they're expensive, right? So it would be very expensive encounter, but it would be safe, right? Because that one encounter would be protected. But the problem is that the reality, look at his face, the reality of this guy is that a woman could say, yes, we had sex, there was a lawyer, everything was notarized. Yes, that's true. But the next day. So there's no way you can protect yourself against, like, the bank story. The bank story, you have to prove there's a bank. Prove that, this happened, money disappeared. Prove cop was killed in the line of duty. You have to prove that, right? And there's obviously historical evidence there. But again, it's the boogeyman. We're fighting the boogeyman. And, here was the thing I really wanted to say that you really need to understand. This is fucking important. It's not that it could happen to you. It's not the fear. It's not the odds. We're not talking Vegas here. The damage is done by the possibility. That's where the damage is done to your psyche. So not only are guys going to jail based on false allegations, but every man, there is a cloud of fear. And if there isn't, it's because the guy's smoking too much weed or has an IQ of 83. But for any intelligent man, the higher the intelligence, the more likely the guy's worried about it. He's concerned about it. So again, if you're on the low level of intelligence, you probably think things are going to be fine. But if you're on the higher level, the higher you are, the more likely you're going to say, wait, this could happen to me. This could happen to anybody. This could happen to my dad. And what do? What is your choice? My choice was to go overseas and to really have a great life. Because here's the thing. Despite these things happening, despite things not being perfect, despite things being unfair in the West, okay, life is great. That's the thing. See, do your best to protect yourself and have a great fucking life. Because life is wonderful. That is what guys make a mistake. That's why guys don't want to face this. It's because they think if they face this, they're going to be depressed. But I'm telling you right now, no. What really kills you that you don't realize is the unknowing and the fear, the fog of war, the confusion in your mind. When you protect yourself, it's not that you protect yourself fully, okay? Whatever choices you make, it's that you, and again, here's what I'll end on. It's that you did your best. Okay, you did your best. And again, like I said, there's these tricks in the mind. How Japan overcame why you couldn't overcome the guy backing up over a child. It's because we have a sense of fairness. We have a sense of, I can't control that. And when you protect yourself, your brain, to the best of your ability, within reason, right? Obviously. When you make a choice, when you face reality, it gives you confidence. Okay? When you run from you like a rat, hide, that doesn't give you confidence. When you face reality and make smart choices, talk to your friends, look at other people, make the best decision. As a man, if it happens to you anyway, the one regret you won't have is that you weren't a fool. That's man's biggest fear, is not respecting himself. If you did your fucking best when you were free, and there was just a series of terrible things that happened, and I can tell you this for a fact, because I lost my child in a termination parental rights case, and I did my best. And because I did my best, I have peace with that. I can't control the world. You can't control the world. I'm not saying you're happy about it, but there's a peace. Like, I know I fucking did my best. I stood up, okay, when times were hard. I cared, and that will never go away. My actions, and there's evidence of what I did, my actions show to me my heart. See? That's how I survived it. A lot of guys, how could you survive? How could a guy survive something? It's because you respect yourself. You did your best. That's all I'm asking you in this video. Just do your best. There's no perfect way to protect yourself. Face reality, protect yourself, and move on and have a great life. And that's it. Speaking of having a great life, I'm going to go. I'm in Osaka, and I'm going to go fucking have a great day. All right.